Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
And it's 5:07. It's O'Connor and Company, Tuesday morning, 23rd day of September. Thanks for tuning in here, and thanks to Andrew Langer and Bethany Mandel for covering for me yesterday. I'd like to call it a mental health break, and spent the day with my three oldest brothers. Get together once a year, and it was great to get together with them. And we went to Monday Night Football last night. Patrice Onwuka, I might be a little hoarse. I was rooting on my Detroit Lions last night in very hostile territory, surrounded by the flock.
Oh, man.
But it was worth it because our Lions were triumphant.
Congratulations.
Sorry, Ravens fans. Yeah, thank you. But it was great, and it was definitely, gosh, after the emotion of the last 2 weeks with Charlie Kirk's assassination and that unbelievable memorial service on Sunday. Yeah. It's just it was good to touch grass, as the kids like to say. Later this morning at 7:05, Nick Minnock, Channel 7, about that extraordinary exchange with Abigail Spanberger, where she finally confronted that question about her stance on men and women locker rooms, and she gave. Honestly, Kamala Harris saw that answer and said, "Wow, that's some word salad right there. That's some embarrassing stuff." 7:35. Mary Margaret Olahan, DC Daily Signal White House correspondent. Is Mary? We better check that. I think she's back with The Wire. I don't think she's still with the Signal. She bounces around a lot. That Mary Margaret Olahan. Talk about yesterday's big announcement about Tylenol and supposed links to autism. 8:05, Joe Concha will discuss the return of Jimmy Kimmel, sort of. Is he returning? Well, kind of, but not in our city. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Good morning, Patrice. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, good morning. Good to be here. I'm recovering from a little bit of strep after my birthday.
Oh, no, you had
Happy
strep.
birthday to me.
So you're recovering from strep throat. I'm recovering from screaming at the top of my lungs at a Monday Night Football game throat. We're going to be fine. It actually, halfway through the first quarter, I looked at my brothers and I just said, I can't talk the rest of the night. I'm done. I got to rest my voice.
You got to save something. Yeah.
And I pretty much did. But you know who has also been resting his voice for several days is Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel, of course, we were told indefinitely suspended. I keep saying temporarily. The word that Disney used was, ABC Entertainment used, was indefinitely suspended. Of course, just to quickly revisit, it was following inaccurate and also insensitive remarks about the murder of Charlie Kirk, attempting to tell a joke at the expense of Donald Trump and mourners of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Someone in the writer's room said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Let's tell a joke all based on this murder of this young man." And Jimmy Kimmel said, "Oh, great, you betcha. Let's do that." And, of course, in the course of the joke, he erroneously and I think mean-spiritedly suggested that the assassin was one of theirs, meaning a MAGA, right-wing conservative, Trump-loving individual. And that was just wrong. There was a day where he could have apologized and retracted. He did not. 2 days later, Disney, under pressure from syndicators like Nexstar and Sinclair, who threatened to pull him off the air, Disney asked Kimmel to apologize and retract. Kimmel refused and, in fact, said, "I'll address this, but I'll blame those crazy right-wing MAGA conservatives for taking me out of context willfully." And Disney said, "Yeah, that ain't going to happen." And Nexstar, Sinclair announced they wouldn't be putting him on the air. Disney said they're going to indefinitely suspend him. But yesterday it was announced that they had reached a decision to put him back on the air. And we don't know exactly the details behind that, Patrice, in terms of what changed. But if you're looking to watch him tonight on Channel 7, ABC 7 WJLA, you won't see him because Sinclair, the syndicator, has reiterated that until Jimmy Kimmel gives a full-throated apology, until Jimmy Kimmel makes a personal donation to the Kirk family and to the Turning Point USA organization, they will not be returning Jimmy Kimmel to their stations, and that includes our local ABC station here in D.C. So that's sort of the latest, although there's a lot of speculation as to what instigated Disney's decision here to return him to the air, and we'll report to you some of that speculation that has some basis in reality. But Patrice, what do you think drove this?
I think that Disney, they probably felt quite a lot of pressure from the left, from, those whoever watches Jimmy Kimmel, which we know is not a lot of people, considering his ratings had plummeted so low, particularly in his demographic. But, I think you still have a lot of leftists who are in positions of power in the media, who are, executives in television, who are executives in some of these big corporations that maybe are sponsors or advertisers, and they're feeling the pressure from the blue sky folks to say, no, we this is not right what's happening to Jimmy Kimmel, even though they themselves probably had not been watching his show in ages. But it feels like an affront to them. This is like a left versus right. This is another battlefield, and you've got people on Daily Kos saying that Jimmy Kimmel should never give an inch to the fascists. There are people who just are this obsession with fascists, fighting fascists when they themselves are behaving like the fascists is remarkable. So, I think that's what it is. They're going to put him back on for a little bit, but don't be surprised if they end up canceling his show again soon, just without without all of the attention from the Charlie Kirk murder.
Yeah, you're right in terms of people who, are so concerned about this, even though they probably haven't been watching Jimmy Kimmel for quite some time. Ratings for the last month, according to Nielsen, plummeted in demographic, which is 18 to 49 for this show. That's their target demographic, to a remarkably pitiful 129,000 households. That's just rough. We talked about that on Friday.
Yeah.
So the audience was dwindling. Also in the background here, it's been revealed that his contract was close to being expired. Disney was going to have to make a choice, like CBS had to with Stephen Colbert, whether they wanted to re-up him or not. So that was going on in the background. According to Disney, they put out a statement and gave it to Fox News Digital, saying they decided to suspend the production to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. And they now say, we've spent the last days having thoughtful conversation with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. So that suggests that now, after those conversations, Kimmel's approach to his program tonight will not further inflame a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. Or Disney has decided, well, the memorial's over, we've moved on, now he can come back. Who knows? He's got to address this. He's got to say something.
Oh, he will.
And as of last week, Wednesday, he was prepared to come on and address it in a very hostile way. We've got a little bit more on this. Also, it's been revealed who his first guest will be when he comes back. And there's some speculation that guest booking may, in fact, be connected to ABC Disney's decision to put him back on the air. And it has to do with a big tax break he was about to get, that Disney was supposed to get from the state of California. I will explain in a moment. First, though, it's 5:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
So it's been, it hasn't been announced, but it's been reported, meaning people close to the Kimmel show have leaked to media, and it's been reported that Governor Gavin Newsom of California will be the first guest tonight as Jimmy Kimmel returns, which, of course, is an overtly political act for a couple of different reasons. Now, think about this for a second. There is an active campaign right now for this ballot initiative that would allow Gavin Newsom to redistrict the state of California. It's going to be on the ballot this November. If Gavin Newsom talks about that and promotes that issue, and it is broadcast on local ABC stations covered by the Federal Elections Commission and FCC, Federal Communications Commission, in the state of California, that would then be subject to an equal time clause. And
that's right.
And so that's free advertising, basically, or free public. Anytime we have like if we have Winsome Sears on right now before the election in November on our program, if Abigail Spanberger's campaign says, hey, we want Abigail on equal amount of time, we are compelled to do that. We have no choice. those are the guidelines that we're under. So if Gavin Newsom goes on and starts talking about this ballot initiative and it broadcasts on local ABC stations in the state of California, then the people who are against this ballot initiative have every right to demand equal time. Now, I don't know if they can demand it. I don't know if they can demand it of Jimmy Kimmel. See, this is the weird thing because ABC is the network show. They are not compelled under FCC, but all those local stations are compelled. So what do you do? But again, when you've got an overtly political show like this, which is supposed to be a comedy show, you start wading into these things. There's another issue here. There has been reporting that the state of California has a tax credit for productions that stay in the state of California. Jimmy Kimmel is produced in the city of Los Angeles. There has been speculation that Gavin Newsom threatened ABC Disney to withhold a tax credit that they could trigger for the production of the Jimmy Kimmel show if they didn't bring him back on the air. And now here he is coming back on the air, and who's his guest? Gavin Newsom.
See how that works there. I mean, maybe that probably is a better explanation.
We don't know. I'm just telling you what's been reported.
But I mean, I think it's an interesting explanation. That said, there's going to come a point where California, even with the tax breaks, become less hospitable and, frankly, economical for television shows to be produced there.
We're already in that place.
Well, we are in that place, but increasingly more, so that even the shows like Jimmy Kimmel's show and other shows that are still produced there, they'll have to say, you know what, there's not enough money, a big enough tax break that you can give me to keep me here. And when it comes to lifestyle, quality of life, after a while, a lot of even these super ultra liberals, Hollywood limousine liberals, they're even going to get tired of just the high costs and the ridiculous and the lack of safety in the state of California. It's not surprising they're moving out to Texas, moving out to Nevada, other states.
Sure. Yeah, just harder for Jimmy Kimmel to do that. So much of his shtick is being there in Hollywood. But here's what's interesting to me. The big news is that Disney has decided to put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. Someone needs to explain to me, and Patrice Onwuka, you're much smarter than I am, so I would love for you to sort of lay this out. My understanding was that our president, Donald Trump, using Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, they were the ones that forced Jimmy Kimmel off the air and refused to allow ABC to have him on the air. They were using their fascist authoritarian tactics from the federal government to compel ABC and force ABC to do this. So explain to me how now ABC can reverse course and put him back on the air. Are you telling me this was ABC's decision and not the government's forcing their hand?
Well, you could tell the left the truth, which is that it had been ABC's decision from the start. But they don't care. They don't care about truth. They don't care about the truth. All they care about is their narrative, which is that the other side, the other guys are the fascist. And you know what, folks? Every time you see the word fascist, it's become a dog whistle for the left now. So they use it in every single sentence, It's akin to you're a racist, you're a fascist. So they're just using that word to shut down any sort of real thought and logic when it comes to the decisions that a corporation will make about the talent and about the programming that they're putting on. Forget that Jimmy Kimmel's ratings were in the toilet. Forget that this would have been a great opportunity to get rid of him because as you mentioned, his contract may have been up, and many other reasons. They just think, oh, it's the fascists, and so you have to fight the fascists. It's the fascists, but that is a purely. This is brain fog, Larry. Can you help me out?
It's just a pejorative knee-jerk reaction, and it's also deflecting from their own tactics. By the way, Sinclair deciding that they're not going to have Jimmy Kimmel on does affect DC. It also affects huge swaths of ABC viewers across the country. Anywhere between 38 and 44% of his audience are watching on Sinclair stations. So Sinclair not airing him will definitely leave a mark.
So it's just going to be the clips on social media if they go viral. That's pretty much all they have to depend on.
It appears to be the case. It definitely sheds light on the hypocrisy of all of the accusations that this was authoritarian censorship by the Trump administration, because nowhere in here does anybody say, well, the Trump administration changed their mind. No. So if ABC was being censored, if Jimmy Kimmel was being censored by the government, what changed? And no one can answer that question. One other thing, as we're talking about hypocrisy, one move that could have affected ABC's decision is the fact that over the course of the last 4 or 5 days, many prominent, as you called them, blue sky left-wing liberals have been taking to their social media platforms and saying that they were cutting Hulu, they were canceling Disney Plus, they were canceling all their streaming platforms. They wanted to hurt Disney. They wanted to send a message that Disney was wrong, so they were canceling. They were doing this economic protest. Explain something to me. Why is it virtuous for liberals to cancel their streaming platforms and send an economic message back to Disney that they don't like the fact that they took Kimmel off the air? That's virtuous. But when conservative viewers complained to Sinclair and Nexstar and to advertisers that they didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel had to say, and they said they wouldn't watch anymore if Kimmel stayed on the air, why is that fascist? But what the liberals did was virtuous. And when you can answer that question, you'll understand a whole lot. It's 5:23.
All right, we finally have an answer from Abigail Spamberger about whether trans boys should be in girls' locker rooms. You won't believe what she has to say. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37, plowing through this Tuesday morning, the 23rd day of September. Thanks for tuning in. All right, coming up at 7:05, Nick Minnock, ABC 7 WJLA, where you will not see the Kimmel Show tonight because it's owned by Sinclair. Nick Minnock will join us at 7:05 to talk about this exchange he had with Spamberger that we're going to tell you about in a moment. 7:05, it's Mary Margaret Olahan, Daily Wire White House correspondent. 8:05, Joe Concha, media analyst for Fox News, talking about Kimmel coming back. That's all coming up. That's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Good morning, Patrice.
Good morning.
That's my Irish voice there. All right, I want to play you something here.
Okay.
As I said, Friday was the first day of early voting in Virginia. Right?
Our show is all the great candidates.
Right, we had everybody on the show Friday. Very exciting. And just like Winsome Sears and John Reed and Mr. Miaris, our Attorney General, Abigail Spamberger and the Democrats were everywhere as well, trying to drum up their early voting. And she was in Fairfax having a big event. She stopped and talked to the media. And Nick Minnock of WJLA thought, well, this is a great time that I'll finally be able to nail her down on a very, very simple question. And Patrice, I cannot tell you how simple this is. It's a super simple question.
Can you tell us directly, do you support biological males who say they're women using women's locker rooms and bathrooms and competing in women's sports?
Now, this is an incredibly relevant question, too, but you heard how simple it was. Can you tell us definitively, directly, a direct answer to a direct question, do you support biological males going into women's locker rooms and competing in women's sports? And it's incredibly relevant for two reasons. Number one, because federal funding is being cut off from 5 Northern Virginia school systems for allowing biological males to compete in women's sports.
Yes.
But secondly, and frankly even more importantly, at this moment, there is the case of one Richard Cox, a registered sex offender who was once again arrested, an adult male, he's in his 40s or 50s, going into women's locker rooms and exposing himself to girls as young as 10 or 12 years old. This is something that is in the news right now, that is happening right now. It happened in Fairfax County. It happened in Arlington County. And it would be nice to know where the governor, the potential governor of the state of Virginia stands on that issue. We know where Winsome Sears stands on it. So that is the direct question. And it's it's not some academic, theoretical, philosophical question. Although, frankly, I think it's very revealing when you learn philosophically where somebody stands on this issue. But no, it's very real about those two very specific cases. Now, I want you to listen to her answer. Once again, direct question, give us a direct answer.
Well, the circumstance as this legal case plays out is really one of, we've had court cases settled or judged here in Virginia in the 4th District, the former Gavin Grimm case related to bathroom usage. And in fact, the argument is, the assessment is, there needs to be much clearer guidance in terms of what is an executive order's binding assessment of Title IX versus what has been a decision of a court.
But do you...
What? So wait, let me get this straight.
That's her direct answer.
She doesn't actually answer the question of should biological boys be in girls' locker rooms and sports and spaces. She gets into a legal garbly goop about court cases versus injunctions or executive orders. So this is her bypassing the most fundamental question, Larry. This is absolutely about her policy position. She doesn't have to get into the mechanics or the process of it. What Nick was asking her was about her policy stance, and she dodged
actually it wasn't even her policy stance. All Nick asked was, "Do you support this?"
And she dodged it completely. And got people. She sounded even worse than Kamala Harris. Yeah, trying to answer a question.
And Patrice, she's had months to come up with this. She's had months for it. She's been dodging this for months, and now she's finally asked. And you're right, it all had. And she was referring to a case where a girl who is identifying as a boy, I believe, in Virginia, sued to be able to use a bathroom. Which the 4th Federal Circuit Court came down with a decision. That's all. But that's not what the question was. The question had nothing to do with legality. It had nothing to do with court cases. It didn't even have anything to do with school policy, because it was really a question about Richard Cox.
Yeah, that's right.
The only question is, do you? In fact, she could have said, well, we've got a court decision in this, and there's some constitutional questions and Title IX questions, but regardless of that, I don't think it's right.
Well, but because she would never say that, either she doesn't, she does believe that it's okay, or she's just too fearful of losing money from the deep pockets that support the trans movement. I mean, listen, you don't even have to, you could just say, I do not believe that a grown man who is a sexual predator should not be in a place where children are. That would actually be a correct answer. But she didn't even want to go that far, which tells you everything about her character and her lack of support for public safety, women's issues aside.
It's the most nonsensical gobbledygook word salad. It makes it actually puts salad to shame. It's outrageous. And here is Nick Minnock following up, because again, the question was, do you support the issue? Listen to the follow-up, and then this is going to be edited a little bit because he had to follow her around. She turned and started running from him. At that point, she wouldn't give any other answer.
Maybe she thought he was going to serve her.
Personally support these policies. Do you personally support them? Do you support these locker room or bathroom policies, Congresswoman? Why can't you answer this question directly? Let's go. Congresswoman, do you support these bathroom and locker room policies?
Space, Nick. Thank you,
Why
Nick.
can't you answer these questions directly?
At no point would she answer that basic question. The question is, do you support them? And after her word salad, she refused to even acknowledge Nick Minnock's.
I'm hoping to see this turn into a clip, Larry, that gets aired as an ad during the morning news. It's a perfect ad. What's your response to whether sexual predators who are sex offenders should be allowed to be in a locker room with a little girl? And her answer is to say nothing and then walk away. I mean, that is the perfect ad. That's like
this is Abigail Spanberger. This is what you'll get for 4 years of Abigail Spanberger as your governor.
Mm-hmm. The circumstance as this legal case plays out is really one of, we've had court cases settled or judged here in Virginia in the 4th District, the former Gavin Grimm case related to bathroom usage. And in fact, the argument is, the assessment is, there needs to be much clearer guidance in terms of what is an executive orders.
So the governor will need guidance to decide what her opinion is as to whether she supports this or not. She can't come up with her own idea. She needs guidance. Nick Minnock, that reporter, will join us at 7:05. It's 5:44. Patrice, we are, of course, looking
Yes.
at this November's election for Virginia, but we're also, of course, looking forward to the midterm elections. In fact, most of the moves and decisions and actions taken by the Trump administration and the Republican Congress, including the big, beautiful bill tax cut that was passed this year, and, of course, the upcoming budget showdown and a potential government shutdown. It's all going to be reflected in these midterm elections, and the Trump White House and the Republican Party are very focused on trying to keep that very narrow Republican majority, or maybe even growing that Republican majority in the House. If the Democrats take over and get that speaker's gavel, there's going to be 2 years, the final 2 years of the Trump administration, full of investigations, impeachments, and more lawfare against Donald Trump. Usually at this time, 8-9 months after the new presidency takes over, the opposition party, the loyal opposition, as it were, the party out of power, they've been able to gain a foothold and really make the case for their party and why they should have the majority coming up in the midterm. That's usually what happens at this point. So let's hear from Harry Ensign on CNN and analyze the latest polls with regard to Republicans and Democrats and how they might be doing. Take a listen, cut 3.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? You know, Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
We do love Harry's approach and how he delivers this, Patrice, and the
he
metaphors.
Calls Democrats
but
the Saints, the New Orleans
setting aside
Saints
setting aside the football analogies, let's take a look at what this looks like, say, compared to other years and such. Take a listen, cut 4.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22, the lead again expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
Whatever they're doing, it ain't working. All right. And honing in on the economy, because I'm told, Trump promised the prices would go down, and prices haven't gone down. It's the economy, stupid. The jobs numbers aren't there. Yada, tariffs, yada, yada, yada. All right. What about the economy, cut 5?
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing, and it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still lead on.
This isn't
so, Patrice, it appears as though just being the party of resistance and protests and screaming in the streets, that's not enough to actually get votes.
Well, look at those key issues. Public safety, immigration, and the economy. And Democrats have stalled. They've thrown tantrums at every single area, and they have said even worse than that all these years. Oh, we can't do anything about it. You just have to accept the status quo. And this administration and Republicans have said, you Americans deserve and are going to get better. And I think they're going to be rewarded. So we'll see. We're still about a year plus out from the midterms, but this does not look good for Democrats.
No, now is the time when they should be building up a lead, and it's
exactly
quite the opposite. 554.